Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to this new episode of my podcast, A Digital Tomorrow. I'm joined today by a very important person in the artificial intelligence area in this industry. Well, he's done a lot. He's going to let you know later. So I would like, without further ado, to welcome Debmalya Biswas. I don't know if I pronounced it well.
No, thanks, Oriol. It's great to be here, and Deb is good. Saves everyone time.
And well, thank you very much again, because I know you're a very busy person. So taking this half an hour to be with me is
No, it's a
something I
pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
I
I
very
appreciate
much appreciate. And well, I've been following you on LinkedIn and social media for a while, so I got to learn a lot from you. But still, in case some of my listeners don't know about you yet, I mean, you began your career in deep tech, research. So, um, I mean, how has your career been like? Where did you start? How did you end up now working at this intersection of finance, technology? If you could please let my listeners know a bit more about yourself.
No, sure. And again, it's not a planned journey, and like my answer as well here. So I was always interested in technology, right? So I started as a software engineer. Then I kind of realized that, what excited me more was a bit like, I would say more on the R&D side, really like challenging technical or theoretical kind of problems and things like that. So I decided to continue my studies from that point of view. So I did my master's, then my PhD. My PhD was in distributed systems, so it was a bit theoretical. It was statistical, not the AI that we know of today. But again, it forms a lot of basics, or let's say the foundations of what we know as AI today, right? And from there, I kind of continued my journey more on the, I would say more on the data side, the data analytics side, because distributed computing, again, at that time, it was the time when big data was coming in. So I kind of worked as a, early days of this cloud era, Hortonworks. Really, I worked for a telecom in between, like Swisscom, where it was really big data in terms of processing petabytes of data in seconds and so on, right? So I think that was like very good, exposure to, let's say, how we really process challenges in such high performance scenarios and things like that, right? From that point of view, I would say my first introduction to, let's say, more AI as we know today, or let's say what we consider kind of the deep learning, machine learning, and way, I would say was more when deep learning came up with the whole cats and dogs and things like that. And that's when I started with, let's say, still using old style natural language processing at that time, kind of, it used to be like ngrams and TF-IDF and, the pattern matching the old style of today. I worked for a startup. We built it from scratch. We kind of, organically grew. We filed a lot of patents and things like that. From there, I continued, let's say, my AI journey. So on computer vision, on natural language processing, working for large enterprises like Philip Morris and all, which is more on the FMCG side. From there, on the consulting side, Wipro, Cognizant, where again, we are working with a lot of large enterprises. I was leading the AI practice there. So I have like, which was very good for exposure in what is happening in the outside world, at least in Europe, right? That's where I was kind of focusing on. From there, I currently lead the, let's say, Asset Management AI Center of Excellence at UBS.
Mhm.
So it's not like I, planned to be in finance and AI, but it was more like, which kind of where interesting things are happening. There's a lot of, as you can imagine, banks have a lot of data that, documents, especially, I would say, unstructured data, where AI can help in processing. Generative AI today is good for those kind of use cases. So it's really a good match that way. We are building, let's say, generative AI solutions, agentic AI, also kind of, which is a core focus these days. We are also kind of, building our own agentic platform and so on, right? So, yeah, I hope that gives you a bit of background. I think the reason I still enjoy kind of, let's say the data part, because as we know, right, data and AI are kind of quite interrelated. So that data background, that distributed computing background actually helps me a lot in kind of, understanding what exists on the data side as well and bringing the two together, right? So, and yeah, and exciting times ahead, I guess I would say.
No, I mean, I think it's a very interesting background, and I'm sure it will be very inspirational for my listeners. And there are two topics I think might be interesting to cover today.
Mhm.
One is AI and fintech, and the other one is something you mentioned now, Agentic AI. So, starting with AI and fintech, I mean, you've been working on AI, as you said, for a while. So, how do you think AI is transforming the back end of financial services, the parts that most people do not see? Because when you talk about AI in finance, many people think about customer service, maybe chatbots, but how is it transforming this back end part, what people don't usually see?
No, no, absolutely. And I think we sometimes underestimate that part because really, I mean, the what you see on the outside, as you mentioned, is more the client-facing kind of interventions. But actually, there's a lot that, where GenAI or Agentic AI can help in, let's say, streamlining the back office operations, right? So even if you take like a customer journey today, right? I mean, okay, the front-facing part is to the customer interactions. But once you get the data, there's a lot of, I would say it's more on the automation side and, really everything. There's a lot of scope for efficiency and productivity, even if you take something like as simple as KYC, right? I mean, KYC today, as you know, is like, really manually validating a lot of documents that are provided by let's say, clients, right? And in our case, it's not only, let's say, the private people who are clients, but institutional investors and retail investors, where you need to even process even more documentation that are provided at a enterprise level, right? So, and this is again where, as I was mentioning, right? I mean, generative AI really adds a lot of value. That is, I would, if I can put it like that, that is the place where large language models work well today
Mhm.
in validating, summarizing these documents. I mean, of course, everything we still have the human in the loop, but just in terms of, let's say, the speed and the productivity that we get in terms of, let's say, a large language model providing a first draft or a first validation check or a first extract from a document, right, and then kind of putting it together in a report for someone to review. I think that is significant in itself, and and this is, I would say, this type of back office operations are not only, end of the day, it's document processing, right? So good thing is that it is applicable to a wide range of enterprises. It's, I mean, yes, within fintech, we do have certain regulations we need to follow. We do have certain, um, you know, checks and balances that maybe are in addition to non-regulated industries, but the basic document processing doesn't change, right? This is where we are actually able to benefit a lot from what is happening in the non-fintech world also, I would say, right? Because back office operations is a big topic, maybe still neglected topic, as you rightly mentioned. But I think that's where and end of the day, let's not forget that, we are still being challenged with hallucinations and things like that, right? We haven't solved it. We have our evaluations, we have our guardrails and all, but unfortunately, that is still a very big thing, which makes it difficult to put these things in production for client-facing kind of applications. But again, for back office operations, end of the day, this is your internal employee who's a human in the loop who can provide their necessary auditing, safety, and checks and all. So that way it works even better, right? So I would really say, like, for regulated industries, I mean, internal back office operations have a lot of scope, and that's where they're getting applied, at scale today, I would say, yeah, in fintechs also.
Mhm. And yeah, following this, um, well, I mean, we know that there is a big excitement about artificial intelligence now in finance. We are seeing like lots of reports being produced, many people talking about that, to the point that, well, there's this excitement, even this hype. From your point of view, do you think that there is any area of Gen AI in finance that may be a bit overhyped and other areas that perhaps are really unappreciated right now? Or do you think there is no such thing?
Yeah, I mean, again, I would say it's not hype as such. It's really like finding the sweet spot. I mean, like we were discussing, I mean, where it works well today is large documents, document processing, or, that's where GenAI works well today. I think I would say we are still in early stages of experimentation in terms of how, let's say, GenAI or transformers or deep learning can have a wider impact on, let's say, the quant type of models, or let's say, the really actually the trading algorithms and all, which are still, kind of, I would say, machine learning based, I mean, statistical machine learning based. There, we haven't seen so much impact yet. Not to say that it cannot be, but I think some further, work or let's say customization, fine tuning, or different types of architectures will be needed for them to be applicable today. So I think where we are able to apply AI today is more on, let's say, this type of, you know, um, let's say not the core trading strategy itself, but really things around that in terms of, how we, let's say, the whole, how we enable or let's say make the whole client interaction or client processing. Imagine, let's say, advisor, being able to, let's say, pull up a lot of information, proactively get that information. So all those things, that's where AI is having more of an impact today. Core trading, quants, and all. I think there's a lot of experimentation happening, and where but let's say the general off-the-shelf kind of are still. I think there's a lot of debate, and we are kind of in a similar process, evaluating and seeing where they can add value. But the impact on, let's say, everything around it is like already there today, right? I wouldn't say that is hype. Those efficiency, those benefits you can see today.
Mhm. And well, back to agentic AI, I mean, I think that we can all agree that it's been a major shift. I mean, it's been existing for a while, but I would say that maybe in the last year or year and a half,
Mm.
it's become much more mainstream, I mean, many more people are starting to either thinking about using agents, agentic AI, or at least they are starting to know what it is. So, I mean, from the idea of executing a task to actually making autonomous decisions, all these ideas, how would you define, and I know that you mentioned that before a bit, but still the role of agentic AI in financial services today? I know that you mentioned this a bit before, but still.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, right? I mean, I don't think we still have a universal definition of, what is agentic AI, right? And all of us have a different view. The way I try to at least visualize it or kind of, simplify how it can be applied, right? See, generative AI is like one intervention at a time, right? I mean, you are either summarizing, you are either extracting information, you are either, let's say, generating some personalized email or report or things like that, right? Whereas agentic AI is really taking that and, building an end-to-end process or let's say workflow around it, right? Again, I use the word workflow because that's what we are very much used to in a kind of finance world. Everything for us is kind of a workflow. So if I have to define, let's say, for me, I mean, again, people have started using these words interchangeably and things like that. But for me, agentic AI is a bit like, I would say, end to end, right? It's unless it impacts a process which is doing multi-step, multiple things, it's not agentic AI. Then we can also argue like how much of it is like autonomous and how much of it is, kind of clearly scripted and things like that, right? We do know, there's just like hallucinations, reasoning models have their limitations as well. So one, fully autonomous is, I would say, is not possible today uh, for reasonably complex tasks which need kind of planning and things like that, given the current state of reasoning models. Secondly, even if they were possible, I think from a regulated industry point of view, we are not ready on the governance side to be able to trust these systems. We do not have the necessary standardized metrics, checks and balances to ensure that, these, let's say, agents are, kind of capable of doing things that they promise, right? So I think both have to mature um, together to till we see like fully autonomous agents. And which are taking action, right? Of course, people can say that, we have fully autonomous agents, but they are mostly retrieving information today, which are read-only kind of, right? That's what we see mostly. They are not taking actions. I think that the challenging part starts when you allow these agents to take action, which is to make a sale, which is to, let's say, do something which has either a monetary implication or a regulatory implication or things like that, right? That I don't think any of us are there yet. And for that to happen, I think we need to be able to trust these systems. And for that, I think, yeah, two things, as I was mentioning, reasoning models need to be better. And at the same time, we need to be better in terms of how we standardize, evaluate. I mean, I sometimes I sometimes see it as like autonomous vehicles, right? The accountability part is very important. I mean, even if the technology is ready, unless we know that when things go wrong, who is accountable? Is it the bank? Is it the system provider? Is it the LLM provider? Is it the team who built the agent? I think till we solve that puzzle, I think I don't see like fully autonomous kind of agents, being there.
Exactly. That's actually the next question I wanted to ask you. Now, if we are talking about the idea that AI agents can make autonomous decisions,
Mm,
who's responsible? No, I mean, who is accountable if something doesn't go
yes.
the way it should be? No, that's something I wanted to ask you. I think there is no clear answer to that.
No, clear, unfortunately not. I don't have an answer yet.
But I
That's
think,
a big topic here. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think this is a topic now to which these coming years will be for sure discussed. No,
Hopefully, hopefully. Because without that, I don't see it becoming a reality, right? I mean, end of the day, we either or maybe a third party, just like insurance provider, right? I mean, maybe there's like someone who says, no matter what happens, I take liability, right? I mean, but someone has to step up. It has to be clear, right? I mean, like who is accountable? Without that, unfortunately, it's a big challenge.
so to some extent, we could say that this is like a barrier, no, that we have, like
Yes.
until we do not solve who is accountable for what, may perhaps we will not move like forward, no, in that area until we find
And
something.
also, yeah, and also on the reasoning model side, right? See, what I also see from agentic AI point of view, right? I mean, not to take any sides, right? I do see a lot of focus on, I would say agentic AI today, the work that you see in the enterprises is not so much data science, right? It has almost become software engineering. For us, we are focusing a lot in terms of, security. I mean, not to say they absolutely need to be there, right? These agents need to be able to talk to, external, internal systems. Integration is needed. It needs to be at scale. And, they need to have the right authentication, authorization, and so on, right? But I do see a lot of focus kind of there in terms of, when we are talking about agentic AI in enterprises in making this, but end of the day, this is more like cloud engineering or security engineering or software engineering high level, right? I do see, I think we are only, let's say, the frontier labs and all are maybe working. The reasoning part, to be honest, I think I do have my doubts as well, how much the current architectures will scale as well. I think there needs to be some investment or, better investment or visibility where, how, I do see we are not ready on the reasoning models part, the technology part as well, right? To make this, let's say fully autonomous agents ready also, right? So both sides have to be ready kind of to make it work.
Mhm. I see. And yeah, I wanted to ask you one final question, no, about embedded finance, because well, we've seen to some extent, as many people suggest, that embedded finance and enterprise AI seem to be converging to some extent. So, do you see the future financial services becoming much more infrastructure-led, experience-led, or how do you see this convergence?
No, it's converging for sure, right? I mean, I think we are all kind of working towards, embedded AI or kind of, where AI becomes seamless, right? I think we all agree that it is experience driven and what is driving the requirements of it is not the latest and greatest LLM, but how it can solve or let's say, serve our clients better, make the processes easier. So serve both clients and employees, right? So I think it's clear in terms of the direction. I think we're almost, I would say, we are all working towards, making this experience-driven, client-driven AI first, but driven by client experiences, right? The employee experience or the client experience, right? I think I don't think there's any doubt about that, right? I think that's definitely the direction going forward. That's where we are all headed. The challenge is, yeah, only, as said, right, the regulatory governance part also needs to go together in this journey, right? And
True.
that's still a bit of a challenge.
True. I mean, I think all these areas are actually very interesting, no? I mean, we are reaching now the end of our episode, but I think that we got to discuss some very interesting topics, no? I mean, and to all my listeners, I mean, Debmalya Deb, he's, as I said before, a very important voice in the area of artificial intelligence. So I encourage you, all of you, to check his LinkedIn. I, for sure, I managed to learn a lot about these areas from him because you're always posting those very relevant, guides and presentations about Agentic AI, AI in finance, that I think are actually very enlightening, and I'm sure that people will learn a lot from you. And I hope they get to learn a lot from listening to this episode, which has been very interesting. I think this area of AI in general, but especially when it comes to AI in finance, Agentic AI, is fascinating. There's still a lot to be
Absolutely.
uh, discussed and found out, both from a technical side, which is something that I leave to the experts, and also from more from these other sides. We talked before about accountability. This also raises in the future, or will raise, well, legal questions. There are regulatory issues as well. So I think there's a lot going on, and there will be a lot going on for sure in these coming years. And I'm excited
No,
to
no,
see what happens.
absolutely. I'm fully with you. And thanks, Oriol, again for the invitation. It was great. And the reason I kind of, share or post it, really the speed at which this technology is evolving, right? I mean, we cannot do it alone, right? I mean, okay, I think of course we cannot share all the use cases are working on things like that. But from a technology point of view, I think we all have a lot to learn together, and just the speed at which it is evolving, right? That's why I really value this type of, the work you're also doing to kind of, democratize it, kind of share your knowledge and kind of, bring people together. I think that's the way to go about it, right? So thanks again, really appreciate it. And yeah, it's good. Great talking to you. Thanks.
No, thank you, Deb. I think that, as I said before, the work you do is actually very interesting. I myself, I got to learn a lot from you, and I'm sure many other people have, because it's kind of easy, right, to learn, to read about AI today, nowadays. Even if you're working as myself in fintech, you get to hear a lot of things, but it's great to get like actual information from sources as expert, as experienced as you are. I think that's something very useful that I very much appreciate. So I would like to thank you again for everything you do, and also for your time for coming to my podcast.
Thank you. It was a
And,
pleasure.
and well, to all my listeners, thank you very much for listening to this episode. I encourage you to follow Deb on social media, on LinkedIn, Medium, etc. And please stay tuned for the next episodes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.